Eastern Illinois head coach Adam Cushing, the Panthers, coming off a loss at Southeast Missouri this past week. They are going to take on Austin Peay, who is coming off a 1-point loss to nationally ranked UT Martin. That game is in Clarksville on Saturday afternoon. So, Coach, just thoughts on your team, and then we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, obviously, we played a good first half last week, and you got to give all the credit to SEMO. They made the plays in the second half. Special teams was the turning point in the game. They obviously returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Their punt team gets us on the 1-inch line twice. I've never seen it before in my life. They were truly on the 1-inch line. It was great, just great execution by them. And we didn't play our best second half. We continue to kind of preach this throughout the season. We put 60 minutes together. We're a very good football team, but right now we're only playing about 30 or 45 minutes of the football game. And as coaches, we've got to do a much better job of getting us to play for 60 full minutes, because I really have full belief that this team can do whatever we want when we play the way that we're capable of.
Let me ask about that first, and I'll get into some of Dan's questions here. Some teams are slow starters and some teams are fast starters and not finishing. What's the key to that as a coach? What are you working on to do that full 60 minutes if your team starts off quick or is more of a closer?
Yeah, it's interesting because we've kind of been all over the map this year, meaning we've had some second halves where we've really come alive. We've had some first halves that have been great. So it's just about consistency, and that comes from practice and prep and truly every minute of every day throughout the week. Just making sure that we're always staying on top of it. And then there's an energy on the sideline, right? Everyone talks about momentum's a real thing, and we've just got to be more active when momentum leaves our sideline of going and just grabbing it back. And what we talk about in those situations is you don't have to make a magical play. You just have to make the play that's there for you to make, is just do your job. And what's really has happened is we've let the momentum kind of make us press into trying to be, make the moment bigger than it is. When you feel that momentum slipping, and it's just about you grab it back by doing your job.
So Isaiah Hill, and I know you have liked to have had him every game of the spring, and so far this year he's battled those injuries, but had the game that people know he can.
Well, he just showed you what he's capable of. He's a pretty special young man. He really is. And I'm just so happy for him because he has battled through so much. And I say this every time his name comes up. It is a coach's joy to watch the young man practice. He practices so hard that he doesn't have anything below 100%, but that's how when you practice that way, right? Jason Johnson, I say it about him, like Colin Bohannock, I say it about him, like those guys that go out there and just don't know a different speed. There's a reason they play well on Saturday. And Isaiah Hill, number one, he has a different speed than most human beings have. He's pretty fast. But to practice that way all the time is why the success comes his way. And I love him so much. I know he's battled through so much. I'm just so happy for him to have had the opportunity to do what he did out there. Obviously the guys that weren't out there made the stride just getting back out there, right? Jalen, Zay. But I think you've seen a lot of growth with Bryson Broadway up front at offensive line. And I think, you see Nick Stricker and Anthony Manavas, guys that kind of share our super back position, have really, we kind of went into the season wondering how defined their role would be. And they've both really defined a role for themselves offensively. The Aaron Folks, I think, has really started to step up and play his best football throughout the season. And then, Otto is just what he has become. Obviously, there's been some ups and downs and been thrown at the other team a little bit too much. But I think what he's realizing is just what it takes to be a successful Division I quarterback, the preparation required. And so that, offensively, those would be the guys. Defensively, obviously, a guy like Jordan Miles has really, really stepped up for us. Colin Bohannock in his first full season of starting has really been an anchor there at the Mike linebacker position, right? Making the calls and getting everybody on the same page. I mean, you're talking about growth, so it's hard to it's hard to ignore talking about Jason Johnson, talking about defense, but it just seems like what Jason does is make tackles, and Jason always makes tackles, and he just makes tackles, right? So it's hard to define his growth. But what I think what you see with Jason is he's added more dimensions to his game. He understands a little bit more. Like he wasn't a box player in high school, so he's just learning more and more about playing in the box, and then he defeats blocks different ways now, right? It used to be all speed because he's a fast dude, right? And now he understands the box game so much more. Boy, our corner play for the season, and we were kind of unknown what was going to be that way. So I know I'm going on and on about a 1-8 football team, but I'm just so proud of these guys. I mean, we practiced late last night, and it was just, I even reflected, and I hate to think, because I know I got to be what's important now, but man, the season's close to coming to a close, and I'm just going to miss being around them all the time because they're just such a great group of young men.
You've covered the waterfront in your comments. You really have. And I had some questions about Isaiah Hill, but you answered about what makes him so special. And also you talked about Jason Johnson a little bit. So let's talk offensively. You average 178 passing yards per game with fewer pass attempts than any other team in the conference. You have to feel good about your ability to move the ball through the air. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, we obviously, that's the maturation of Otto Kuhn's really coming along. And that's part of our offensive philosophy is we want to get the ball down the field, right? That chunk plays are really important in football, right? Because getting yards is really hard. I mean, you can look at our offensive stats and see that we're not getting a whole lot of yards in general, right? But when you get the big chunk ones, it makes a difference.
You also have a balance in your attack, your running game and your passing game. Will the game dictate the running game and the passing game as far as you're concerned, or is that just your general philosophy to balance the two?
Yeah, I think that's our general philosophy is that we want to make the defense defend everything, right? And if you're defending sideline to sideline and line of scrimmage all the way to the goal line, there's more to defend. Right. And I know that sounds simplistic as it gets, but we want to take advantage of what the things are that they're giving us. And every defense has some weakness somewhere. Right. We got to take advantage of what they're giving us. And then we got to go fight for the rest of it. Right. And I say to guys, right, the general philosophy is, I don't know, 15, 20% of the time, we're going to have a good call for what they've got called defensively. 15, 20% of the time, they're going to have a good call for what we got called offensively. And then the other, I don't know, whatever that ends up being, 60, 70% of the time, we better fight our tails off for those yards because your defenses, especially in this conference, defenses are really good and it's really hard. You got to go fight for them.
Seems to be a very, very balanced conference, if I can say so. Now, due to COVID, you haven't played Austin Peay since 2019. The game last year, the final game of the season, was canceled due to COVID. They've got a different coach now. What do you look for from the Governors?
Boy, they're a really good football team. Obviously, offensively, they do a great job of playing with tempo, right? Of keeping you on your heels defensively, so that you've got to get lined up in a big hurry. And then they've got a bunch of weapons, right? That's what probably makes that the scariest is they know how to get their guys in one-on-one matchups, right? They use the entire football field, kind of similar to what I just said. They do a great job of truly spreading you out like crazy so that they get their guys in a ton of space, and they got talented players on offense, man. And then defensively, they've got guys. I mean, just you look at their defensive two deep and graduate. There's a lot of guys I recognize that have been there a while, right? That I saw in 2019, Jack McDonald, that kind of thing. So they obviously understand the game of football. They play their tails off. I really respect what coach has done there. Obviously, stepping in, the way that he did, but obviously they've done a great job of having those young men play, and really believe.
Coach, last question. What do you think the difference in this game is going to come down to?
Well, I think the difference in every game comes down to the turnover battle, right? Is you got to start there. If you hold on to the football and then special teams, right? And then obviously I just talked about their weapons, right? We've got to do a great job. We've got to get Isaiah Hill the football, right? I mean, I don't think I'm tipping Scotty Walden off after he looks at the stat sheet last week and sees that we've got to get our playmakers the thing in space. They're going to get to their guys in space, and then it's going to come down to that fight. right? That 60% of those snaps, that it's going to be that fight, man, and who's going to fight the hardest. And I know we're walking into their stadium. They fight really, really, really hard. And we're going to go see if we can go match that and have a great football game.
Coach, I appreciate your answers. I really do. And just let me say, I have the highest respect for your approach to this game and the way you handle yourself with your young men and this game of football. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that very much, man. It means a lot. Thank you.